So here is the situation. My name is Emily, I am 22 years old, and I live at home with my parents while finishing my last year of college. My parents are Mark, who is 48, and Linda, who is 47. Living at home has never been my dream, but it has been the practical option. Rent prices are insane, and my parents have been struggling financially for the past few years. Because of that, I pay them $500 a month in rent, usually cover the electric bill, and chip in for groceries whenever I can. I also work part-time at a bookstore and tutor students on the side, so I stay busy trying to balance school and work. I have always been the dependable one in the family, the one who never caused much trouble. Then there is my younger sister, Jenna. She is 19 and has always been the golden child. She is bubbly, dramatic, and has perfected the art of getting our parents to bend to her will. She has never contributed financially, but she is still the baby of the family, so my parents excuse her behavior constantly. I learned early on that Jenna knew how to cry at the right moment or throw a dramatic speech to get what she wanted. A few months ago, Jenna came home in tears, begging our parents to let her best friend Ashley move in. According to Jenna, Ashley's family situation was complicated, filled with yelling and neglect, and Jenna insisted that this would be temporary. My parents, being soft-hearted as usual, agreed. I was not thrilled, but I figured it would only last a few weeks, so I kept quiet. At first, Ashley was quiet and polite. She said thank you, offered to help carry in groceries, and tried to make a good impression. That lasted for about 2 weeks. After that, she revealed who she really was. Suddenly, she was eating through groceries like a plague of locusts. I would buy food for the week, and by Wednesday half of it would be gone. I started labeling my leftovers and my snacks for class, only to find them missing anyway. I once came home after a 10-hour shift to see Ashley sitting on the couch with 2 of her friends eating the pizza I had bought with my own money. When I confronted her, she laughed and said, "Oh, we did not think you would mind." Ashley also had no respect for the house itself. She took showers that lasted more than an hour, leaving the hot water tank completely drained so that the rest of us had to shower in freezing water. She left her makeup smeared across the counters, wet towels on the bathroom floor, and piles of dishes in the sink. If I scrubbed the kitchen, within hours it looked like a frat house had exploded, and when it came to cleaning, she simply refused. Then came the kickbacks, which was her word for small parties. She started inviting 4 or 5 friends over at a time, blasting music, drinking beer, and turning the living room into her personal hangout spot. One Friday night, I came home from a late class to find beer cans scattered all over the coffee table, music blasting from someone's phone, and a random guy I had never seen before passed out on the couch. I asked her what was going on and she brushed it off with, "Relax, it's just a hangout." The breaking point for me personally came when Ashley suggested that I should share my room with her. She said hers was too small and stuffy, and she deserved more space. I pay rent every month. She does not. She said this to me while stretched out on my bed wearing my hoodie, eating the last of my Chipotle, like I was some evil stepsister hoarding luxuries. I was stunned. When I complained to my parents, they hit me with the same line they always use. "She has been through a lot, can you not just be nice?" Meanwhile, I was the one paying the electric bill she ran up by leaving lights and straighteners on all day. At that point, I realized if I wanted peace, I had to adapt. I started locking my bedroom door whenever I was not home. I bought a mini fridge for my room and kept all my food inside it. I stopped stocking snacks for the whole house and only bought what I could personally keep secure. Ashley did not take this well. She accused me of being dramatic and making her feel unwelcome, but I was done letting her freeload off me. The absolute final straw came right before a major biology exam. I could not find my $180 textbook. After tearing my room apart, I found it in Ashley's room, sitting on the floor with a giant coffee stain across the middle. When I confronted her, she casually said, "Oh, I forgot to order mine, and I guess I spilled something on it. You can still use it, right?" That was the moment I saw red. That night, after my parents went to bed, I collected every dirty dish she had left in the sink, every pile of laundry she had dumped in the hallway, and every empty snack wrapper she had scattered across the living room. I stacked it all neatly in front of her bedroom door. Then I added a sticky note on top that said, "Hotel is closed. Management suggests you contribute or leave." The next morning, the explosion began. Ashley cried to Jenna. Jenna cried to my parents. Everyone was worked up except me. I was calm because I knew I had finally had enough. And to my absolute shock, for the first time ever, my parents actually sided with me. They told Ashley she had 1 week to either pay $300 in rent and start helping with chores or she would have to move out. Ashley pouted, called me cruel, and tried to guilt trip everyone, but in the end she packed her things. Watching her drag 6 overstuffed garbage bags full of clothes down the driveway was the most peaceful moment I had experienced all year. Now Jenna refuses to forgive me. She says I was cruel and heartless for kicking out her best friend, and she barely talks to me anymore. My parents are relieved the house is calmer but still feel guilty that Ashley left. And me? I finally feel like I stood up for myself. I am just tired of being painted as the villain in this family. Was I wrong in this situation? It has been a full week since Ashley dragged her 6 garbage bags of Forever 21 rejects out the door, and honestly, the house feels like it has gone through an exorcism. The tension in the air has lifted so much that I swear even the dog from next door has stopped barking at odd hours. For the first time in months, groceries I buy actually remain in the fridge. I bought a pack of string cheese on Monday, and when I opened the fridge on Friday, it was still there. Intact. Untouched. That might sound small, but in this house, that is a miracle on the level of water turning to wine. The bathroom no longer feels like a hostage negotiation. I can take a shower when I want without knocking politely like I am trying to gain entry into a secret club. I no longer sit on the edge of my bed timing my showers around Ashley's elaborate makeup routines that looked like she was preparing for a Vogue photoshoot. Now the bathroom is free, the counters are clean, and there are no damp towels crumpled like sad roadkill on the floor. The kitchen has transformed into something out of a commercial. I actually came home from class one evening and found the sink empty. Empty. Not stacked with bowls containing questionable liquids, not buried under plates smeared with melted cheese and tomato sauce, but gleaming stainless steel. I had a moment where I just stood there staring at it, half expecting a film crew to appear and tell me I had won a cleaning product sweepstakes. The peace of mind from seeing a clean sink is something I did not know I needed until now. Of course, not everyone is celebrating this new era of cleanliness and quiet. Jenna has been sulking like I personally ended her childhood. She barely speaks to me, and when she does, it is in that uniquely teenage passive-aggressive tone that only little sisters have mastered. She has decided her chosen form of rebellion is dirty dishes. She now leaves bowls and spoons in the sink as a protest, like she is staging some avant-garde art piece about oppression. I walked into the kitchen one morning and found a single spoon floating in a bowl of what looked like spaghetti-o cement. I asked her why she could not put it in the dishwasher that was literally 2 feet away, and she smirked that since I was obsessed with the kitchen being clean, she thought I would enjoy the honor. For once, my mom actually lost it at her. Mom, who has been firmly Team Jenna since the day she was born, marched into the kitchen, pointed at the bowl, and told Jenna that if she thought her sister was her maid, she better start tipping her. Jenna tried to argue, but Mom doubled down, saying that I had been paying bills and cleaning this house while Jenna and Ashley had turned it into a sorority basement, so she had no right to punish me for wanting basic respect. I almost fainted. My mother actually sided with me. It was like spotting Bigfoot balancing a checkbook. Meanwhile, Dad has turned this into his victory lap. He struts around the house as though he personally carried Ashley out on his shoulders. He pats me on the back and announces things like how much lighter the house feels without freeloaders, and how this is exactly what he had been saying all along. Which is ironic, because he did not say anything of the sort while I was drowning under Ashley's chaos. Still, I let him have his moment of glory because it is the closest thing to validation I am going to get. Jenna, however, has doubled down on her dramatics. She has been storming off to her room, slamming doors hard enough to rattle the picture frames, and sighing loudly at dinner like she is auditioning for a role on a CW drama. One night she announced over spaghetti that the house felt empty and cold without Ashley. I looked her dead in the eye and told her that what she was feeling was called central air, and she should be grateful I paid last month's bill. My dad actually choked on his pasta trying not to laugh, which was a tiny victory in itself. The problem is that Jenna is not letting this go. What started as sulking has escalated into plotting. I caught her scrolling through apartments on her laptop with an intensity she never uses for her college work. She has been more secretive with her phone, shutting conversations down the second I walk into the room. And just yesterday I overheard her in the hallway, whispering into her phone with Ashley about some kind of plan to move out together. So, turns out Jenna was not just sulking, she was plotting. Last weekend she disappeared for a few hours with some flimsy excuse about running errands, but it did not take long for the truth to come out. She had actually snuck off to meet Ashley at Starbucks, and she came home with the kind of smug expression that told me she thought she had just pulled off the heist of the century. She tossed her purse on the counter like she was walking onto a reality show reunion and declared in this overly dramatic tone that she was moving out, that she and Ashley were going to get an apartment together, and that it was going to be somewhere better. I almost spit out my iced tea when I heard that. Better? Better than the house where she paid zero rent, never bought groceries, and treated the entire place like a hotel lobby? The delusion was staggering. I pointed out the obvious that she lived here for free and contributed nothing, And she rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck in the back of her head. She told me that at least with Ashley she would not be living under my dictatorship. Dictatorship. That was the word she chose because I dared to ask her not to leave wet towels on my bed. The best part was watching her try to pitch this to our parents. She wanted a reaction, she wanted drama, but instead my mom just blinked like she was calculating how long Jenna would last before begging to come back. And my dad? He actually laughed. A full-on, shoulders-shaking belly laugh. He told her that she was more than welcome to move out if that was what she wanted, but she would need to get a job first because he was not about to pay rent for her and Ashley to play house. I thought Jenna's jaw was going to hit the floor. She looked stunned like he had just canceled Christmas and told her Santa was never real in the same breath. Of course, that was when the meltdown started. She stomped around the living room, hurling accusations about how toxic we all were, and how none of us understood her journey. For context, her journey so far has been binge-watching Netflix, leaving empty soda cans on her nightstand, and using my expensive shampoo without asking. She finished the performance with the door slam so loud that even the dog startled. I just sat there enjoying every second of it. What surprised me most was my own reaction. I did not even bother arguing. I was too busy enjoying the thought of her actually leaving. That night, I went to bed with the biggest grin plastered across my face. For the first time in months, I slept without hearing late-night TikTok marathons blasting through the wall or Jenna crying because Ashley was gone. It was pure silence, the kind of silence that feels earned. I slept like a baby who had finally graduated to their own crib. The next morning, Jenna tried to keep the drama alive. She dragged herself downstairs with a pout, acting as if she had just announced a presidential campaign and we were all supposed to be impressed. She dropped little hints over breakfast like, "When I move out, you will all regret treating me like this." My dad, completely unfazed, told her that when she moved out she should remember to take her laundry with her because it was starting to smell like she had already left. I nearly choked on my cereal from laughing. Jenna sulked harder after that, stabbing her eggs with the fork like they had personally wronged her. But then came the kicker, the moment that made all of this feel like a comedy skit rather than real life. Later that day I got a text. From Ashley. Yes, Ashley, the same girl who devoured my groceries, stained my biology textbook, and suggested she deserved half of my room. She reached out to me of all people, the so-called dictator of the house. Her message was filled with fake sweetness, acting like we had never been at odds. And then came the ask. She wanted to know if I would be willing to co-sign their apartment lease because Jenna had no job, and Ashley's credit was about as solid as wet paper towels. So picture this. I'm sitting on my bed, casually munching Doritos straight from the bag, scrolling through Instagram, when my phone lights up with a number I don't recognize. I answer out of curiosity, and who's on the line? None other than Ashley, speaking like she's negotiating some high-stakes peace treaty. She starts off with this sugary, sweet tone, laying it on thick, saying she and Jenna found this really cheap apartment downtown, and that all they need is a little help to get started. I already knew exactly where this was heading, but I let her talk because honestly I was curious how deep this rabbit hole went. She continues, explaining that neither of them has any income yet, but they're super motivated. And the landlord said that if they could get a co-signer, they would be approved immediately. And of course, she said since I was the responsible one in the family, I would understand and want to help. I could not stop myself from laughing out loud. Full-on sitcom laugh, the kind that echoes through the room and makes your cat stare at you like you've lost your mind. I told her outright that I wouldn't co-sign a library card for her, let alone a lease for an actual apartment. She gasped as if I had just personally revealed that Santa Claus was never real. The shock on her end lasted only a moment before it flipped, and suddenly she went full-on nasty. She accused me of being a selfish brat, and claimed this was exactly why Jenna said living with me was unbearable. And just like that, click, hung up. The audacity was staggering. This is the same girl who drank all my oat milk in one sitting, spilled coffee on my $180 biology textbook, and once had the nerve to ask if she could borrow my work uniform because she needed something business casual for a TikTok skit. And now, here she was, asking me to financially back her move into an apartment. Absolutely not. Not in a million years. Of course, 20 minutes later, Jenna stormed into my room without even bothering to knock, because why start following rules now, right? She demanded to know why I humiliated her best friend. I calmly pointed out that I did not humiliate anyone. I simply refused to attach my financial future to two people whose idea of budgeting is basically, if we run out of money, maybe vibes will cover the rent. Jenna fired back, claiming this was their chance at independence, like it was some kind of heroic mission to adulthood. I raised an eyebrow and reminded her that independence does not mean drinking all the oat milk in the fridge and staining expensive textbooks. I pointed out that she had not been buying her own shampoo, and for years I had been paying rent, covering utilities, and buying groceries while she treated this house like a free hotel. She sputtered, saying she would buy her own stuff once she moved out, but the damage was done. The logic was too undeniable to fight against. After our little confrontation, Jenna ran crying to Mom and Dad, convinced they would back her up as usual. But instead of sympathy, Dad completely flipped the script. He told her that if she and Ashley wanted independence so badly, they could start by paying rent here first. Consider it training wheels for adulthood. The expression on Jenna's face was priceless, a perfect mix of horror and disbelief. She looked as if the universe had personally betrayed her. Like she had just been told she'd have to pay to breathe. Things have officially escalated to peak sitcom chaos. After Ashley's little cosign disaster, Jenna tried the classic guilt trip maneuver on our parents. She went all out, putting on a performance worthy of an Oscar. Puppy eyes, exaggerated sighs, dragging out a notebook where she had apparently tallied every instance in which I had ruined her life, as if I had personally orchestrated some elaborate campaign against her happiness. She insisted that without a cosigner, her dream of moving out with Ashley was completely doomed, painting the situation like a tragic indie film, rather than the messy, self-inflicted disaster it was. Dad finally snapped. He looked her dead in the eye, pointed toward the hallway, and delivered a verdict that had the weight of a courtroom judgment. Either she starts paying rent here or she packs her bags. He was done supporting freeloaders who refused to follow the simplest rules of communal living. I watched as Jenna's jaw practically hit the floor, like she was witnessing a UFO land in our driveway or her favorite TikTok star reveal they were actually a robot. Mom attempted to soften the blow, but even she couldn't argue against the logic. After all, I had been paying rent, covering groceries, and chipping in on utilities for years. Jenna was being handed a reality check she did not want. Adulthood does not bend to whimsy, TikTok trends, or dramatic pout faces. Since that moment, Jenna has been sulking nonstop. She drifts through the house like a ghost of entitlement past, floating silently from room to room. Breakfast has been reduced to grabbing granola bars without touching the fridge or pantry she previously raided like a scavenger hunt. Laundry piles up with an air of defiance, and she sits in the living room staring at furniture as though it personally insulted her taste in home decor. Meanwhile, I have been silently celebrating the newfound peace. I sip my coffee in the mornings, knowing no one is blasting music on the couch, leaving crumbs on the cushions, or raiding my protein bars while claiming they are communal. The house finally feels like the space I have been paying to keep livable for months. As for Ashley, her dream of a cheap apartment came crashing down faster than a failed science experiment. Jenna texted me from her phone, which I strongly suspect Ashley had borrowed without asking, complaining about the situation. Apparently, Ashley had not even paid her half of the deposit, and now Jenna was stuck trying to survive on an air mattress in the middle of the living room because there was no furniture. I almost choked on my water. This was the predictable outcome of two people trying to live on vibes, enthusiasm, and borrowed money. On top of that, Ashley was stiffing Jenna on groceries, insisting they could share food, which struck me as ironic since Ashley once rated my $5 Chipotle burrito like it was a communal treasure. At this point, my sympathy meter for both of them had officially dropped to zero. I went from feeling bad for a troubled friend to quietly laughing every time Jenna texted me, chronicling her roommate horror story. Karma was serving itself cold, with bonus points for an air mattress and 3 unpaid bills. Meanwhile, back at home, Dad's ultimatum still loomed over Jenna. She has not moved out, has not started paying rent, and every time she mopes in the kitchen, I just stare at her like, "Welcome to adulthood, sweetie." 2 months later, the house has finally reached a level of quiet where I can hear myself think, or more accurately, sing obnoxiously off-key in the shower without fear of judgment or competition. It feels like the place has finally exhaled after months of chaos. Jenna has somehow scraped together a part-time job at the local mall, folding sweaters at some boutique she insists makes her cooler. Though from my vantage point, it mostly makes her complain about standing on her feet for 8 hours straight and rehearse Instagram captions in the mirror. She begrudgingly started handing over $150 a month to Mom and Dad, which is not much in the grand scheme of things, but the principle is what counts. I often catch her counting her tips with a scowl, and handing them over like she's sacrificing a limb for the greater good. Every dollar seems to come with a side of protest and dramatic sighs, but at least she's contributing something, and for now that is progress. Ashley, on the other hand, has reached peak freeloading karma. Her so-called cheap apartment dream imploded spectacularly, like a reality TV blooper reel edited in fast forward. According to Jenna's texts, which are now delivered with a mix of exasperation and glee, Ashley bounced from 2 apartments since our showdown. Last I heard, she was couchsurfing at some friend of a friend's place, arguing over who gets the better spot on the couch during her first night, only to be evicted within the week for not paying rent. I cannot even process the audacity. It's surreal watching all of this unfold in real life. As though karma finally put on a reality TV hat and decided to deliver justice with a side of slapstick. Mom recently admitted she was blindsided by her own emotions at the start of this ordeal. Over coffee one morning, she confessed that she initially thought I was being harsh, but upon reflection, she realized I had been right. Being firm with Ashley and standing my ground with Jenna was not cruelty. It was kindness, in the form of reality checks and boundaries. Dad nodded in agreement, pointing out that some people just need a hard reset to understand that actions have consequences. I almost fell off the couch laughing because it was such a relief to finally have them truly on my side after months of being painted as the villain for wanting basic respect. With the house finally livable, I achieved a personal milestone I had been dreaming about for months: securing my own apartment near campus. This was not a quick process. Apartment hunting involved countless tiny kitchens, questionable carpet choices that looked like they belonged in a 1970s time capsule, and landlords whose humor ranged from passive-aggressive to straight-up existential. But after navigating a sea of chaotic listings and dodging roommates with red flags taller than my bookshelf, I finally found a place that did not come with a side of drama. I had even chosen my welcome mat. No freeloaders allowed. A small but satisfying declaration of victory over months of stolen groceries, coffee-stained textbooks, and roommate sabotage. The atmosphere at home has changed dramatically. The house feels lighter, and my blood pressure has returned to a near-normal range. I can sit down in the living room or kitchen without bracing for an unexpected mess or a loud crash from someone else's chaos. The calm is almost surreal, but it's delicious. Looking back, the entire saga reads like a comedic montage. The missing protein bars, the stolen oat milk, the failed apartment dreams, and Jenna's ongoing theatrical sulks. It is exhausting to recount, but also hysterically satisfying. The moral of the story has crystallized clearly in my mind. Standing your ground and enforcing boundaries is not cruelty. It is self-respect. You cannot fix everyone's problems, nor can you carry the weight of other people's irresponsibility. Protecting your space, your money, and your sanity is not just acceptable. It is essential. Thank you to everyone who has followed along through this chaos, laughed at the absurdity of my misfortunes, and silently judged Ashley with me. After months of drama, I am finally moving forward into a life that is peaceful, self-contained, and snack-filled. Goodbye, and may your roommates, or lack thereof, always be respectful of your Doritos.